Hello and welcome. This is a bad day for the Russian military. Heavy Ukrainian drone strikes hit several cities and destroy a number of strategic airlifters, while the Ukrainian forces make further advances in the south and actually cross parts of the first fortification line of the Surovikin line close to Robotine. This and more in this situation report. There have been coordinated strikes by the Ukrainians on several locations inside of Russia. They hit a microelectronics plant here in Bryansk. At least that's the report. Always some kind of doubt behind that, whether or not it's actually truth, because we never know if the videos are accurate and so on. But here in Bryansk, a drone hit a microelectronics plant. Then we have this here, that in Pskov, the airport has been hit. These are images from the airport showing Ilyushin 76 candidate transport planes burning. Pskov, and that's the interesting part, is up here. So the airport was hit roughly 800 kilometers away from Ukraine, and the air defense was not able to prevent Ukrainian drones reaching that. Obviously, some pro-Russians are claiming that the drones was just started in Lithuania, somewhere in the Baltics, in Estonia or Latvia. But the likelihood is that they probably either crossed through Belarusian territory or flew around without being discovered. The numbers are unclear as of now. The reports are between 4 and actually 7 planes being hit. I read about 6 planes claimed all destroyed, all Ilyushin 76. There are some rumors that a Tupolev 22 M3 has also been hit, but that seems to be false. I found a Ukrainian military blogger saying 2 Ilyushin 76 were actually destroyed and 5 further were damaged. Obviously, we don't know to what degree. We will have to wait for the satellite pictures, but in late pictures it has shown that the airport was absolutely stuffed with planes. A huge number of Ilyushin 76 were there, and that is what leading me to conclude that probably a Tupolev 22 has not been hit. On the satellite pictures, Tupolev 22s have not been identified. We will have to wait for further pictures, and maybe we can identify some wreckage there, but this is not unimportant. Ilyushin 76 has a version with a capacity of 40 tons and one with 60 tons. That is the modern version that is currently being built at a rate of 1 to 2. Russia has over 100 of them in the military. The numbers are 110 that I found. Other claims are that they are 90. They also have some in civilian cargo airlines. Other institutions of the Russian government have them. So some of them could be probably pressed into service for the Russian military. But generally, that plane is important for rapid redeployment. Supposedly, Ilyushin 76 helped stop the Ukrainian offensive here in Kharkiv by flying in reinforcements closer to the front line here, and they would be of immense importance, obviously, once the land bridge was cut and resupply has to be brought in here. With their high capacity and long range, they are also important for power projection by the Russians, but losing up to 7 is not a complete disaster, but because they probably still have enough, and they will have some in storage that they can rebuild and that they probably will rebuild, but it's absolutely not a great thing either. We also have reports that the barracks of the 76 Guard Air Assault Division in Pskov has also been hit. Then another attack was reported on Sevastopol, both by air as well as by sea drones. Other towns supposedly being hit were Tula, Lipetsk, and Oriol. So in one night, Ukrainians struck at several different points and at least in some degree managed to destroy highly valuable targets. Let's go to the front line here. We have further Russian attacks being reported at Kupiansk, in the direction of Kupiansk, Sinkivka. Also, attacks were happening at Novoihorivka. The Russians claim that they were successful at different points, like basically along that front line here. I cannot, and down here, I cannot confirm recent Russian successes, but we do have some geolocalization here. That is that in the Crimea forest, they actually gained some ground here. Just to zoom out, this is right south of Crimea, roughly in here. The Russians had some successes probably along that line here. The Serebryanske forest is contested for months already, and the front line shifts back and forth now and then, but here we have at least a geolocalization of the Russians actually having advanced. Further south, the Russians are reported to attack at Klishivka, Andrivka, and Kurdyumivka. The fighting is mostly focused south of Bakhmut now, so along that line, Russian attacks are being reported. But we do know that the Ukrainians were successful south of Andrivka. We have a geolocalization here that there's an aerial footage of Ukrainian soldiers ambushing 3 groups of Russian soldiers and taking them out. And it was geolocalized right here on the railway tracks south of Andrivka. So Andrivka is getting increasingly under pressure along this line by being cut off. And this was basically here. So we see that the Ukrainians have now reached that point and managed to, at least in that video, hold their position. Obviously, geolocalization just means that we know they have been there at some point. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are still there at this very moment. Further south, we have reports of fighting at Avdiivka, at Marinka, and we have reports that the Ukrainians, first the Russians claim that they had successes in Marinka, that only 400 meters of Marinka are left within Ukrainian hands. That cannot be confirmed, and we had a lot of reports about Marinka, even claims that Marinka was captured a year ago roughly, so we shouldn't take it we shouldn't give it any second thought unless we have actual proof about any movement here. Ukrainians attacked at Nevelske, but I cannot confirm that they have achieved anything here. The next focus of fighting is further west to the border of the oblasts Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia. Here, south of Velika Novosilka, fighting is also continuing. The Ukrainians have probably thrown back the Russians northeast of Pryutne. And we have a claim by Wargonzo, the Russian military bloggers are saying that the Ukrainian attacks have been successful. Russian units withdrew from a number of heights in the direction of Volodin because of the threat of encirclement. Volodine is down here, so the Russians had to withdraw from some areas here because they were threatened with encirclement. Some minor successes of the Ukrainians being admitted by Russian military bloggers in this regard. Further west at Orikhiv, we have bigger news. We have the break into the front line is extending, and it's continuing to extend. We have here we have some geolocalization of a Bobber unit, the Bobber unit. They are flying FPV drones and striking Ukrainian targets, and by that obviously revealing where the Ukrainians are at that point. We see them basically at the northern height, can I say it? Like parallel to Novoprokopivka. This shows us they have reached these positions here. They're advancing further south, and while this isn't that big of a news yet, because they are still in front of the defensive line here of the first continuous line of the Surovikin line, the second news is significantly bigger, and that is this here, another video showing an attack on them. And this is geolocalized here, right at the entrance of Verbove, where the Ukrainians have reached this, and this is in this area here. This should be roughly here. This is important as it shows that the Ukrainians have actually bypassed the fortifications along this line. They have advanced down this road. We can see it here in a... We can see the houses here, even though the resolution is absolute garbage. They have moved down this line and advanced further into it, bypassing and breaking through some of the fortifications, which would give obviously hope for them to be able to extend it further. We have some more news from the Dnipro. The Ukrainians have published a video of them raising the flag here at the dachas on the Dnipro. So this is considered liberated now, as it's obviously no longer contested, the center part around the bridge. And we have Riba saying that there are continuous small raids over the river. But the bigger news is Riba is saying that they crossed again over the river and landed on the left bank of the Dnipro, here close to Pitstepne, where Riba expects them to soon try to attack Kosachi Lahiri again. Again, an example of the Ukrainians having crossed the river. According to Riba, we are only talking about one boat. I think it was a boat with supplies and provisions was sent there at night. So I do not see how big the units would be if one boat suffices to supply them, but we do have further activities of the Ukrainians on this side of the river. To talk about generally about the situation, obviously we have to put the positions here south of Orikhiv into some perspective. We have, first of all, while this gives hope, it's too early to call this a huge victory for the Ukrainian side yet. First of all, the situation around Verbove is unclear. Where we know that the Ukrainians have been there. We do not know if they are still there. On the video of the attack on those units, there are no heavy weapons visibly, so it was a small infantry group. This is more an infiltration than a proper breakthrough. Yes, those infantry, this infantry has crossed through the Dragon's Teeth, through the fortifications, and it has advanced down that road, but that's it. There is no heavy tank reinforcements rolling up behind them on any video, so we do not know how far, and we have no clue how far the positions are established, whether they are still there. For them to break through, to actually advance that success, they need to bring in heavy reinforcements. Infantry won't be able to create any kind of breakthrough whatsoever. It's far too slow for that. It is far too dependent on resupply in the backyard, as it basically can't bring anything with it. And this means that unless there are heavy weapons following, this is an infiltration, this is a small advance, but no breakthrough whatsoever, even though it went through the fortification line. Whether this has happened, whether heavy weapons are being brought up, is quite possible, but we do not have any proof of this yet. And what we see is that it seems the Ukrainians mostly just advanced along that road here, down south. This is not any bigger successes that is proven. So whether those positions here around here are in Ukrainian hands is no proof whatsoever. We cannot prove this at this point. This also important is that unless that those positions are also taken, of which we have no proof whatsoever, they are basically being encircled from two sides, from the fortifications in the south and in the north, that they have bypassed by advancing towards Verbove. So as of now, it's too early to call it a breakthrough. It is quite possible that it can become one, that the Ukrainians will be able to advance further through that they will concentrate forces and try to force it, but we will simply have to see what the Ukrainian side is intending to do and how successful they will have to be. Generally, though, we have to make the observation that now they are advancing faster. There's no question about the pace of the Ukrainian forces slowly picking up, despite them reaching now fortification lines. And that is very good news for the Ukrainians, because this indicates at least that the attrition of the Russian forces is taking up speed and is getting more serious. This is obviously good news for the Ukrainian side, as it gives hope that a big breakthrough, a collapse of parts of the Russian front line is at least possible. It's far from guaranteed at this point, but the hope for it seems to be justified at this very point. But as said, if the Ukrainians can turn this advance in the direction of Verbove into a real breakthrough, is far from certain and far too early to say already. We can advance further to the Black Sea. We have further reports here by the Ukrainians or by the Russians of Ukrainian activity on boats here in the Black Sea. Riba is reporting that the that Ukrainians are still trying to move around there, having landing forces, that they repulse landings and so on. We usually get those messages. Now they claim that the Ukrainians try to put forces on those gas drilling sites to use for communication and for radar, etc., and that they were discovered and attacked by Russian naval aviation. They claim that a cluster bomb from a Russian Sukhoi 24 destroyed 3 boats at once. Obviously, as we've seen before, the fact that the Russians claim they destroyed something is far from anything but any proof. But the interesting part is that they claim that the Ukrainians are still advancing with, and still not advancing, but still operating on the Black Sea with to the extent of their abilities, and that they are still not hiding close to the Snake Island, but trying to actually cross over the Black Sea to reach the Crimean Peninsula, or at least get close to this. When it comes to troop generation, we have the British Ministry of Defense saying that the Russians increased massively the payments for Russian soldiers, but that the number of soldiers they're able to recruit with this is likely not going to succeed to fill the Russian needs. This is obviously implying that there will be a second wave of mobilization, and at least from the Ukrainian side, we have exactly those claims. The Ukrainians claim that on the Crimean Peninsula there will be a mobilization likely after the 10th of September, where there are local elections, and the goal is supposedly to gain 30,000 mobilized personnel plus another 10,000 freshly conscripted, so an additional 40,000 men just from the Crimean Peninsula. The talk is just about the Crimean Peninsula. We have no further proof of this, so we'll just have to see how much of this might be true or not. We have here again the report above from Riba. The Chinese have published a map that shows an island that is partitioned between the two nations as being fully Chinese. This island, the Ussuri Island, Big Ussuri Island, was contested by both for roughly 100 years. And to better the relations between the two nations, Putin made a contract with the Chinese counterparts to partition the island and hand over the western part to the Chinese, which the island itself was fully controlled by the Russians until then, and before them obviously the Soviets controlled it. Now on new maps it shows the island fully as Chinese again, and Riba is not amused and is saying that is mentioning basically that this is not yet an official claim for it, but it's not really a sign of great friendship either to do that. So Riba is not amused, to summarize it. From additional help, in regards to additional help, we have the German government saying that by now 20 Leopard 1A5 have been handed over to Ukraine. There are 10 fresh ones have been handed over, but I have not reported before that the first Leopard ones have arrived at all. So now we know that 20 of them are in Ukraine by now. Also, we have news, it's a couple of days old already, but I don't think I've reported about it before, that Finland is currently evaluating if the Patria IFV is going to be built in Ukraine, probably in cooperation with Ukroboronprom, the Ukrainian defense company. So this might be another option for Ukraine to increase its defense production, which shows a significant output if we regard the amount of drones, for instance, that they have developed from scratch and that are now able to do attacks with tens of drones in one night and continuous attacks on Moscow basically every night. Quite an impressive feat as of now. And we have here a report from a reporter of Radio Free Europe, the editor of Radio Free Europe, that the EU now wants to train 40,000 Ukrainian soldiers a year, not just 25,000 as it was said before. Then we have some pictures from Ukraine. Ukrainians have developed some robots for the front line, and they are testing them right now to be deployed. This is, as we might guess, that this might be for Kasivac At least that's my guess if I see the size of it. This is clearly, we see the feeding mechanism for a gun. So this must be a mobile gun platform. This is probably for reconnaissance. I'm not absolutely sure. This also seems to be a belt for a machine gun here. So this is supposedly for machine guns, and this is likely a suicide robot intending to blow something up by using mortars in this regard. The Russians are doing that themselves as well. We have a Russian video here of a small robot using a machine gun that they tried in this test here to support infantry troops. So we'll have to see how, at which point they are going to pop up along the front line. And we have a video, an interesting one, that shows Ukrainians evacuating here. They're wounded and barely being missed by an FPV drone that is smashing down right behind the car. So here they were extremely lucky getting away from this, getting away this way by and being able to film it at the same time. And finally, I have the news from reports have been in the last couple of days. An Australian company is building drones out of cardboard, and they are being used now by Ukraine. The payload is 3 to 5 kilos, so for a small warhead, I guess RPG-7 or something like this, probably it can be used. And as it's made from cardboard, it's close to invisible to radar or very hard to detect, and they are now being used in significant numbers. Supposedly the Australians deliver quite an amount every month to them by now. And finally, another news, in Gabon has been another military coup. The president is now under house arrest, and the son was arrested for high treason. The military council is now considering to dissolve the institutions of the republic. They want to annul the presidential and the parliamentary elections at the same time. And the president, Ali Bongo Ondimba, had just won the recent elections a couple of days ago. But the interesting fact here is that his family is ruling the country for over 50 years and is using its power to falsify, to get basically the election results that they intend to stay in power. And by now, obviously, the military seems to have had enough. We'll have to see how it continues. Still, though, the international community is mostly not pleased with the military coup. Chinese and French have both said that the election is to be respected, so we'll have to keep an eye on this. The country itself is rich in oil, and right now 400 French soldiers are stationed in Gabon, so we'll keep an eye on this as well on this channel. That's it from me for now. If you like the situation report, please hit the thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm. If you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon and leave a comment what you think about the current developments from Gabon to the Southern Front. This can really be interesting and lead to interesting discussions. This channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. Thank you very much to everyone already supporting this channel. And that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.